All right, we've got a question here from Robin Jackson. She's saying, if you're a licensed real estate professional and actively manage your notes, isn't that income?
Ask your tax person. How do you file it on your tax return? You know, it's not my call.
Right. Okay.
So you mentioned when someone opens an IRA, it's not just an account. You have to create either a trust or an LLC associated with that IRA.
Wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you create it, is it just an account that opens up and you guys do the paperwork and we can start investing next month?
Yep, boom, or the next week, you know, or the next day. Once the money's there, you can invest straight away. So right, no, an IRA is like a trust. You don't need a trust in your IRA. In fact, we won't accept a trust as an asset, you know, so like a land trust or something. We don't accept those as assets. You don't need an LLC at all. If you live in California like I do, I mean, you've got to pay $800 a year to the franchise tax board just to have for the privilege of an LLC anyway. You know, you're going to pay some attorney $1,000, $2,000 to set it up for you. And so it's an expense and it's an ongoing maintenance to have an IRA owned LLC. So just make sure you really need that and make sure it makes sense, because once the IRS finally gets some capital and they start doing audits, you know, like as frequently as they used to, they're going to be looking at these IRA owned LLCs.
Sure.
It's low hanging fruit for them. So if you have an IRA owned LLC, make sure you're all buttoned up, that your accounting is beautiful. You've never spent a single penny on anything that isn't asset related, and that you followed all the prohibited transaction rules and not broken any, and then you'll be okay.
So just to make sure we're clear on what you can't do, can somebody, and the most famous question I ever heard, can I paint a house that I own with my IRA?
Okay, well, today the IRS isn't out there inspecting house painters, okay? As far as I know. I don't think they have the budget for that. So if you did it, I don't know. But if your IRA paid for house paint, and they would say, well, who painted your house? You know what I mean? So they would want to probably see an invoice for that house paint. Something like that.
How about retirement houses? Can I buy a retirement house with my IRA?
Can you live in it later on? So here's the thing. When you buy an asset with your IRA, like a house or any asset, it's supposed to be that you have no intention of ever using it personally. So usually when you buy a house, you buy it as an investment, and that's what you're supposed to do in an IRA. So just keep records, you know, of like every time you solicit for renters, every time, you know, you hire a vendor, just kind of keep a diary, like, dear diary, today I, you know, rented my place to this person. And then later on, now, boom, you're 65, and you think, you know what, I like that little house. You know, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get an appraisal. I'm going to give it to my IRA company. My IRA company is going to disperse that house to me, and I'm going to get 1099 for that market value. And then I'm just going to go live there because I'm going to own that property. I'm going to pay the tax on the market value. I'm going to take the hit, but then I've got that house. And that's what I'm going to do. So you can do that later, but really your intention for buying a house needs to be investment purposes.
Okay. Huh. Very interesting.
Keep good records. Yeah.
What are some tricks you've seen people use IRAs and that were very creative? And you have a good story that someone says, "Whoa, that was pretty cool."
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't want, you don't want to be too creative. I mean, you do, but you don't, because you want to follow the rules, and the IRS kind of figured out the creative stuff already. But back in the day, I saw somebody who took their IRA, their Roth IRA, and bought tickets, sporting event tickets. A ticket is literally real estate. Did you know that? A seat is like renting real estate. It is considered part of real estate.
No way. Huh.
So, yeah. So then he sold it, didn't use the tickets himself, and then sold those tickets at a profit.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Well, it's not an asset class we take. I think because there can be abuse, and we want to make sure we stay in business. But I mean, I've seen it happen. There may be, another more expensive IRA company that will take the risk, but there you go.
So does somebody have to have a certain amount of money to start an IRA? Can they start it with $500 and be ready to go?
Yes, you can. But the thing of it is, do you want to do that? I mean, obviously I want to open IRA accounts, but I also want to do what's in the best interest of our account holders. So If you only have $500, don't open a self-directed IRA because every year you're going to get that fee, right? And then 2 years later, boom, you have no money and you didn't invest and you didn't prosper. We want you to prosper. So when you self-direct your IRA, have an asset in mind. Or like, I'm going to put this money here and it's going to be in this IRA. Then I'm going to shop for an asset. That's the way to do it. Open the account, fund it, then go look for your asset. So the money's there and you're ready to pull the trigger. You're not waiting for the money to come over, because we could wait 2 weeks or more for money to come over from another custodian into the IRA. So if you've got your account open and funded, it's loaded, ready to go, you find your asset, boom, pull the trigger. We review your docs and get your deal funded.
Just trying to see if there's any more questions we have from other investors and just make sure. And then we'll get to our.
So when did you start uDirect?
In 2009.
2009. Oh man, that's a good time.
Yeah, it was just perfect, and I just bootstrapped the whole thing, and it was all because of the vast number of real estate investors. And remember being able to buy houses on tape?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're lucky if you can find a house for sale right now, It's the market's tight. So obviously there are market cycles, but it was a really good market cycle for sure for
That's
investors.
Great. Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. So then we're always trying to hypothecate. We're always looking towards the future and looking to see. So you've got your real estate background and now you've got the IRA present. What do you see for the future? Are we heading towards more real estate becoming available because of certain circumstances, or what do you see something coming down the pipe?
Okay, well, also not an economist, but what I hear, the conventional wisdom is don't be looking for another housing crisis.
Oh, really?
And the reason for that is that we've just underbuilt, right? During that recession, we had like a decade of nobody building houses. And what do we have? Like I have kids and now they're at the age they want to go buy a house. So there's one, now I have a house, but now there's 2 more houses that we need. We need 2 more, in the supply chain. Are those houses there where they built? In California, they passed a law here or whatever, maybe it was an edict from our governor, that you can only build multifamily. You can only get multifamily permits. Unless, of course, your house burns down, then you can get a single family permit. But right in California, we're only building multifamily now. So do I think that we're going to have this major, glut of available houses? I don't see that. If there aren't, we just have more people. So it's just a numbers game, supply and demand.
Interesting.
Also, rates are going up, right? 6 more rate increases, they said this year. The Fed said that this year.
Yeah.
And so that may make it less attractive to buy a house because the houses are going to be more expensive. It might slow it down. But as far as the number of people that need to live in somewhere, need to form a household, I think that number will increase faster than the number of available dwellings to put them in.
Unless people just buy houses on Metaverse, then it'll be fine.
Right. Live in someone's garage and live in the Metaverse. Yeah.
And you could buy crypto with your IRA.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Is it the Wild West? Just saying. Can you? Yes.
Yeah.
So Mario,
yeah.
one more question. Go ahead. I'll let Marco has a question. Go ahead. I'll let.
Sure. So Marco Barrio's got a question. He says, could you talk about partnering with my solo 401k? So he says, so me personally partnering with my 401k.
I'm saying don't do it. Okay. That's what I'm saying. There is a special DOL ruling, DOL 2000-10. Okay, that's the citing if you want to look it up. That means in the year 2000, the 10th DOL ruling said something about investing together with your IRA. But how do you prove to the IRS, agent who audits you that you receive no personal benefit from your IRA investing? It's tough. So I recommend, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. There's that fine line that maybe you could. So I'm just saying, really consider that before you do it, because you could run in. And so what happens when you commit a prohibited transaction? We didn't even talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Your IRA is like this tax protected bubble, right? Well, your IRA commits a prohibited transaction, boom, that bubble bursts. And now all that money becomes taxable to you with possible excise taxes and penalties, right? So you run that risk. Especially with IRA money, I'm super risk adverse in that regard. It's precious money, my opinion. Maybe somebody else has a different opinion and they can, invest according to their risk tolerance. But I'm just saying, if you want to know what I think, that's what I think.
All right. Very good. Is that all of our questions, Dave? That
I
was
think
a
so.
good discussion on that. That's
It
good.
was awesome. I was informative, very educational.
Yeah.
It's one thing you have to think about constantly, right? Because the IRA is a very great vehicle,
Yeah.
but it can be disastrous if you don't treat it right.
It is. It's super easy to avoid prohibited transactions like landmines, but that's why you talk to us. Hey, this is what I want to do. We say, okay, here's the path to get there without stepping on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
That's very good.
Well, thank you so much. uDirect.com. Take a look at it.
DirectIRA.com.
uDirectIRA.com. Their fee schedule is actually on our portal as well. So if you want to see that anytime, you can go log in and look at that. Reach out. Okay. Right. The company has been around for a long time. They
13 years.
Right.
Yeah.
They know the people. You guys have been at conferences. You've been around for a while. Take a look at it. I know it's cheaper than what I'm paying. So something I definitely got to look into. I'm paying over $1,000 a year. So it's definitely something I should look into. So
There you go. We'll talk.
cool. Yes.
Very good. Well,
Awesome.
thanks so much, Kaaren.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.